We're in week 4 of our 8-week series on the 5 agreements. Each week is independent, and all of the weeks are going to be out on our website, YouTube channel, and Facebook. In this series, we're learning to break the dysfunctional agreements that we made with ourselves when we were growing up, and to adopt a new set of beliefs that allows us to live in a place that reflects more love and ease in our lives. Today is the 3rd agreement: don't make assumptions. We've already examined the first 2 agreements, being impeccable with your word and taking nothing personally. So today we want to look at that don't make assumptions, and I like to say it as make no assumptions, because when we see things from a more positive viewpoint, we have it in our minds. If I say, don't spill the milk, you see the milk spilling. But if I say, spill no milk, you probably see yourself pouring without spilling any milk. In any event, today's message is about assumptions, finding the courage to ask questions, learning to express and ask for what you really want, and communicating clearly with others so as to avoid drama and miscommunication. Our series question is, are you willing to examine what you believe? And our question for the week is this: what is the one choice that you can make today to make no assumptions, to learn to express and ask for what you want, and to communicate clearly with yourself and others? One more time. What is the one choice you can make today to make no assumptions, to learn to express and ask for what you want, and to communicate clearly with yourself and others? Take a breath and think about the last time that you made an assumption about something. It could be as simple as you turned on the faucet and expected water to come out, or you flipped a light switch and you assumed that the action would bring light into the room, or you ate yogurt for breakfast and assumed it was healthy for you. These are fairly safe assumptions. After all, we live in a world where we have running water, we have electricity, and lots of studies have been done on the value of a healthy breakfast and the enzymes and things that yogurt has that are healthy for you. But how often do we make assumptions without any research, without even checking it out a little bit? And what happens when you turn on that switch and the bulb is burnt out? I bet there's some feeling of disappointment, that small amount of what a bummer, because your expectations weren't met, and it involves a little bit of repair to get the light in the room. Assumptions like those involve things, and mostly expectations that are not focused on relationships or don't involve somebody else. Assumptions related to interactions with others and with ourselves are the ones that can be most dramatically impact our sense of well-being and our happiness. And those are the topic of today's message. As you heard in the reading, Ruiz believes that all the sadness and drama you've lived with in your life was most likely rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. So what if we decided to live in the moment of, I don't know about that? To live in the knowing that others cannot truly know what we're thinking, nor can they truly know what they think, and thus we need to communicate and explain our thinking as well as ask questions to find out their thoughts. How often have you heard somebody say, if he or she loved me, he or she would know? Well, how do they know? The only way they know the real truth is if we tell them. Let me give you a small example about assumptions. My partner was getting home very late for dinner. Dinner was already on the table. It was before the days of cell phones, if you can remember those days. And I was getting more and more aggravated as the time went by. Now, in the past, He had stopped at the library and taken some time and forgot to call me before he did that. So I took that past and threw it into the present moment. What happened truly was that his car had broken down, and so that's why he was late. What if I hadn't assumed that he was just being inconsiderate? Last week we talked about how we create our lives, directing them through our beliefs, producing our own movie through our actions and reactions, and that we're the star of our life movie. But everyone hasn't seen your movie. Sometimes making assumptions is like talking to somebody about the details of a movie that you've seen but they haven't, and we probably all know how well that conversation would go. Last week I quoted our founding father, Ernest Holmes, from the book of Practical Application of the Science of Mind, in which he said this about our choices. I think it bears repeating today. The power of choice with which man has been endowed is either his greatest blessing or his greatest curse. When we make assumptions, it becomes our greatest curse. What if I had given my partner the benefit of the doubt and just waited till he got home and asked why he was late instead of getting upset? When you want to know something, to clarify something with someone, you have to ask. There's no value in keeping silent. If you think it saves your pride, it's just the opposite. When you don't ask and make a wrong assumption, then what? Everyone has the right to ask. People can always say no, or it's none of your business, or they can say yes to your request. And you have the right to say no or yes to any other request that somebody else would make. So our rule with respect to assumptions is, if you think you know, remember you might be making an assumption. Clarify. Here's a little magic trick that can help you and possibly save you from feeling like you should already know. Start the question with, I'm curious, did you mean? Or, I'm curious, were you? Or some other form of it. Research has actually proven that when you say, I'm curious, the person listening feels cared about. Why would you be curious if you didn't care about them or their needs? So now that I've talked generally about making assumptions in our relationships, I want to address two common assumptions that definitely do not serve us. The first one is, everyone thinks and feels the same way I do. And the second one is, the assumptions I make about myself don't limit my ability to be the best me I can be. Let's talk about that first one. Making that assumption that everyone thinks and feels the same way you do. It's just not true. As we have been talking over the past few weeks, you are a unique individual expression of the divine, with your own set of agreements and your own expectations, often based on your past experience. And that clearly means no one else on this planet thinks and feels exactly like you do. It's likely that you choose to spend time with people who have values and beliefs close to your own, but they're not exactly yours. To learn not to make assumptions, think about what you might do. One of the most effective things is asking questions. In this section on the third assumptions, Ruiz tells us this: we make all sorts of assumptions because we don't have the courage to ask questions. These assumptions are made so fast and unconsciously most of the time because we have agreements to communicate this way. We have agreed that it is not safe to ask questions. We have agreed that if people love us, they should know what we want or how we feel. When we believe something, we assume we are right about it, to the point that we will destroy relationships in order to defend our positions. Be honest. How often have you expected someone who loves you to know what it is you want or what you're thinking? This was one of my hardest lessons to learn. We grow up hearing that people who love each other and are close can finish each other's sentences and they know what the other person wants all the time. What if you truly accepted that you cannot fully understand anything other people do because they are who they are and you are who you are, both unique, each with our own set of agreements that impact our actions? That's the real truth. Remember, we come into this world to be who we are, to define our own purpose, to live our own life, to act in ways that define us. And that's how we stay true to ourselves, not by presenting some false persona. What if I lived in the question of, what is it I don't know about this, before I assumed that I knew the entire picture? When we make assumptions, we're producing a movie in our minds about what the other person's script says, and we haven't even read their script. Don Miguel Ruiz said this: "We have to be who we are so that we don't have to present a false image." We have to be who we are so that we don't have to present a false image. If we remembered this to be true of everyone we encounter, would we actually make assumptions? Think about what it would be like to stop making assumptions and thus free yourself from all those conflicts that happen because you did make an assumption that was not the truth. Think about the world and what it would be like if everyone decided to behave in this way and communicate clearly and openly. Wow, what a wonderful world that would be. Now to discuss that other limiting beliefs. That when we make statements about ourselves, they don't limit our ability to be our best self. I used to cry a lot, mostly in private, well, sometimes in public at a sad movie or whatever. My private crying was about things people said that hurt my feelings. I would listen, even sometimes pretend it was okay for them to say those things to me, even if they were unkind, and I would pretend I wasn't hurt, or even agree with them sometimes. This put a limitation on my life, and I knew deep down I wasn't being true to who I was. How was that serving me? It clearly wasn't. I was leading other people to believe that what they said to me was okay. And not only that, by my silence, I was being untrue to my true nature. My assumption was that if I spoke up, they wouldn't love me or like me anymore, and I would be unkind and definitely less likable. Wow, now that was a limiting belief. Another example is, over the years, I procrastinated in writing a book about grief that I knew was in me to write. I realized after a lot of procrastination that my belief was that my sister was the writer in the family, and who was I to try to write a book? Never mind that not a single time had she ever said anything to discourage me or said anything that had me adopting that belief. I had just heard other people say what a wonderful writer she was. I knew that she had had things published, and I had allowed her success to limit my thinking and create a block of my own talents. The fascinating thing is, I actually never even stopped to think about whether I believed I was good enough to write my own story. And plenty of my friends kept encouraging me, and I always had an excuse. Let me tell you or show you how I got past that. Pause now and think right now of some limiting belief about yourself. It might be that you struggle with finances, or that you never really feel completely healthy, or that you always struggle with a certain relative because of your different approaches to life. Now, ask yourself this: do I really believe that? Or is that really the truth of me, of who I am? And if that doesn't seem to work, you can always ask the Holy Spirit to reveal what it wants you to know about that particular thought or feeling that you're experiencing. And then get quiet and listen. What I know is when we come from our heart space, we get the perfect information and answers to those questions. And they will come eventually, maybe not right away, but as long as you just keep asking, you will get the answer. When I decided to meditate on why I was so stuck in getting my book done, Spirit clearly told me I was afraid I was going to fail and my sister would judge it insignificant or not very good. I was allowing my life to be ruled by an assumption about my sister, which in all likelihood is false. She loves me and is always very supportive. Ernest Holmes, in The Science of Mind, wrote this: I stand in the midst of eternal opportunity, which forever presents me with the evidence of its full expression. I stand in the midst of eternal opportunity. How might you be forgetting that eternal opportunity, or letting it pass you by because of some limiting belief of yours? Here's a very powerful question you can ask. Where might you be allowing your own assumptions about who you are to limit who you can be? Where might you be allowing your own assumptions about who you are to limit who you can be? This is not to say that writing my book has been easy, or that learning to speak my truth with my friends did not feel extremely uncomfortable at times, especially when I began to practice it. It's truly an area of a life where no pain, no gain applies, or maybe more accurately, no risk, no reward. Take the risk. Quit making assumptions and learn to ask questions. In Richer Living, Ernest Holmes wrote this: the road to self-discovery often calls for the clearing away of the underbrush of ignorance, fear, superstition, and a sense of isolation which has made us feel we are unworthy, unheld, and lost. In the divine providence of good, self-discovery is essential. We merely discover that which needs to be found. What courage or truth needs to be found within you so that you might let go of your self-limiting beliefs and adopt new agreements with yourself about who you're capable of being? Let me repeat that. What courage or truth needs to be found within you so that you might let go of your self-limiting beliefs and adopt new agreements about who you are capable of being? I challenge you this week to think about your self-limiting beliefs and assumptions. Those assumptions you make about other people, those assumptions that you make about yourself that are most damaging in our spiritual journey. Dr. Joseph Murphy, in The Power of Subconscious Mind, wrote this: it is foolish to believe in something to hurt or harm you. Remember, it is not the thing believed in that hurts or harms you, but the belief or thought in your mind which creates the result. All your experiences, all your actions, and all the events and circumstances of your life are but the reflections and reactions to your own thought. Those are powerful words. All your experience, all your actions, and all the events and circumstances of your life are but the reflections and reactions to your own thought. Isn't it time to start looking at what assumptions we're making about ourselves and others? So, in summary, decide this week not to make assumptions about yourself or others. And to do this, remember, never make assumptions. Live with the I don't know the whole truth of that attitude. And know that everyone has their own unique view of life. Ask questions to get more information. Clarify from that place of what is it I might not know. And use I'm curious statements. Avoid making limiting assumptions about yourself. Ask yourself if what you believe about yourself is the truth. And ask Spirit to help to reveal the real truth. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so easily and willingly make the choice today to make no assumptions, to learn to express and ask for what I want, and to communicate clearly with myself and others? So I invite you to make a conscious choice this week to just notice when you might feel hurt or disappointed, and then take a breath and take time to look at the assumptions you're making in that moment. Perhaps ask yourself these questions. Am I absolutely positive each of my assumptions are accurate? Is there something I need to ask to clarify the situation? Then, from that place of what I don't know, clarify without judgment. Remember, make your choice your greatest blessing, not your greatest curse. Let's pray. So we just take a deep, nourishing breath. We move into that place where we know that supreme being, that intelligence, that divine wisdom and love. And we know that we are unique expressions of all of that, that right within us, the divine lives, moves in, through, and as each of us. And what I know is the absolute truth is that the presence of Spirit is here. The love and the joy and the freedom and the creativity of life is right where we are. That fullness of Spirit lives in me and in each person watching this message and each person on this planet. What I know is that each of us is making a concerted effort to notice those assumptions that we make, to start using that phrase, I'm curious, to find out more about what we might not know, and that we're noticing all our own self-limiting beliefs so that we can release them and be the best person that we can be on this planet. I am so grateful that each of you have decided to join us today. I'm grateful to know that the God without is the God within me and the God within each person on this planet. And it's from that gratitude that I release the power of my words into that law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing that that infinitely loving presence has already called it good, already said yes. So I can just let it be. I can say amen. And we can affirm it together. And so it is. So I want to thank everybody that continues to donate, whether it be through the mail, online, whatever way might be your preferred way. And we are continuing to look for a place to have services, whether it be full-time services or once a month or whatever it might be. We're looking at all of our options right now, and we appreciate your donations that provide us the ability to have some down payments. So thank you very much. Enjoy our offertory song.